Hey everyone, welcome back and let's get into the spinal cord. So the spinal cord is a region of the CNS that extends from the brain um, out through the foramen magnum and then extends through the vertebral column. It ends about two-thirds of the way um, or no, it ends about two-thirds of the way down from in the vertebral column, and then it sheds out into or produces what we call a plethora of spinal nerves that just look kind of like a horse's tail. So it's called a cauda equina. And actually, on the next slide, or in two slides, I think actually it'll show. So here you see that cauda equina. So you have that spinal cord. It ends about two-thirds down from the vertebral column. And then it just is a bunch of nerves that are coming out. So there's no more of that actual cord, okay? Oh, wow, sorry. There are 31 nerves, pairs of nerves that extend from the spinal cord that enter into the peripheral nervous system. So when we look at the spinal cord itself, though, it has a gray matter that is deep deep in the spinal cord, and then outside of that is white matter. So the gray matter has a dorsal horn. The dorsal horn receives sensory information. And then it also has a ventral horn which sends out somatic information. And okay, the white matter then surrounds the gray matter, which is composed of those myelin tracts. The white matter then is what so you have sensory afferent neurons taking information into the gray matter. And that'll be on the dorsal side. And then on the ventral side, you'll have motor neurons going away, okay? And so here you can see the dorsal root ganglion coming in. This is going to contain a lot of sensory neurons coming in to send signals to the integration center. And then over here you see the ventral nerve coming out, ventral ganglion that comes out, and this one is going to send information away from the CNS towards the peripheral nervous system for responses. And of course, we're looking at CNS, spinal cord, so we have the dura mater, the arachnoid matter, and then attaching to the spinal cord would be the pia mater. So when information comes in, it comes in from these sensory receptors and it moves directly to the integration center of the spinal cord, the CNS. That integration neuron then sends signals up to our conscious awareness for, anything that we have to be conscious of. And a response comes back down to the integration neuron. Then the integration neuron sends a signal out through the efferent or motor neuron to the skeletal muscle for whatever response has to occur. So now let's talk about the, oh, hold on a second. Okay, there we go. This is where I want to be. So now let's talk about the peripheral nervous system. Peripheral nervous system consists of nerves and ganglia outside of the central nervous system. So a nerve is a bundle of neurons, specifically a lot of axons, that run outside of the CNS. Each axon has its own wrapping called an endoneurium. Then surrounding a fascicle of axons, we have a perineurium. And surrounding the entire nerve is an epineurium. So I hope that this reminds you of the same structure as the muscle when we talked about muscles in our last chapters. So here we have an individual axon, and here we have the endoneurium surrounding a fascicle of axons. We have the perineurium, and then surrounding an entire nerve is the epineurium. Most nerves, so in the spinal cord, all of our nerves are mixed. Mixed nerves contain both sensory and motor information. Sensory information is sent to the CNS. Motor information is sent away from the CNS. In the brain, though, our nerves can be sensory, motor, or mixed. And so sensory information, sensory neurons are going to only take impulses to the CNS, and motor neurons will just take impulses away from the CNS. So when we look at cranial nerves, we have 12 pairs of cranial nerves. In general, they serve the head and neck, but we do have vagus nerves that also extend into the thoracic cavity. They innervate the heart and other regions. And these different nerves can be either sensory, motor, or mixed. So the three sensory only nerves are olfactory, optic, and vestibulocochlear. The motor only are oculomotor, trochlear, abducens, accessory, and hypoglossal. And then these four are your mixed nerves. So they're trigeminal, facial, glossopharyngeal, and vagus. I always remember these by using a mnemonic. So the mnemonic that I remember and the mnemonic that I learned differ a little. So O, to touch and feel very green vegetables. Ah. What I did when I was in school, it was very good velvet, but I mean, it helps. So mnemonic is just a mechanism to memorize the words, and you just put the first letter. So you know that the first three start with O, then you have two T's, then an A, F, V. So, and so then you can remember these as olfactory, optic, oculomotor, trochlear, trigeminal, abducens, facial, vestibulocochlear, glossopharyngeal, vagus, accessory, and hypoglossal. And so here you can see all 12 of the cranial nerves and where they innervate, okay? I'm not going to make you memorize a picture for this, but you do want to know every one of these nerves, what number they are. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No. Oh my goodness. I can't count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold on. Let me find my 8. Where's 8? Oh, there it is. But yeah, okay. Vestibulocochlear is 8. And then glossopharyngeal is 9. Vagus is 10. So these are Roman numerals. Accessory is 11. And hypoglossal is 12. So there you go. Ah, crazy me. So this table shows you the nerve and if it's sensory or if it is motor or both. And it also tells you what it does. So you want to know the nerve and its function. And so olfactory carries impulses for sense. Optic carries information or impulses for vision. These are both sensory. Oculomotor is a motor neuron, and its function, or a motor nerve, I should say, its function is to move the eye. Trochlear is also an eye mover. And so I'm not going to go through each of these, but you can read through and look at, okay, the trigeminal and what it does, abducens, what it does, okay? All right, and this is in your textbook, so you can read it right in your textbook, but I also put it on the slides just because I wanted to make sure that you had access to it, just in case. And then we have 31 pairs of spinal nerves, which I mentioned before. The spinal nerves have, so they're typically named for the region where they come out. I don't expect you to know every single pair of spinal nerves, but I do expect you to know the groups of nerves. So there are structures called plexus that protrude out from the spinal cord with multiple nerves in them, and I want you to know those plexus. So here you can see the different spinal nerves coming out. So a plexus is a network of nerves that serves a motor and sensory region of the body, okay? So there are 4 basic plexes that I expect you to know: cervical, brachial, lumbar, and sacral, okay? So the cervical plexus, the nerve that I care about is the phrenic nerve, and it serves the diaphragm. That's the main thing, and its function, if damaged, will cause respiratory paralysis, and that would lead to death. The brachial plexus has multiple nerves that serve the arms. Ones that I always like to talk about, I talk about the axillary nerve. So if you've ever used crutches, you can damage the axillary nerve if you're not using them right, and that can cause damage to actual paralysis and damage to the deltoid muscle. The median nerve is a very important nerve that causes serious pain if you are overusing your hand. So if you've ever had or heard of carpal tunnel syndrome, the median nerve is the nerve that gets compressed in that carpal tunnel and causes the pain. So damage to this nerve can actually lead you to being unable to use your hands properly. The ulnar nerve is the other nerve that I really care about. Ulnar nerve is the nerve that if you've ever, and I'm sure you have, hit your funny bone, that's the ulnar nerve that you're actually compressing, and it can cause a serious pain going up your arm into your fingers. If you have damage to this, it can cause you to be unable to move your hands properly. And so here you can see the different nerves moving down. The ones, again, that I really care about, I typically talk about the axillary nerve, the median nerve, which runs through this structure called the carpal tunnel, and the ulnar nerve, which is your funny bone nerve, okay? The lumbar plexus contains the femoral nerve and the obturator nerve. So the femoral nerve allows you to move your legs. So extend your legs, flex your hip. And if you have damage to this nerve, walking would be very hard to occur. I don't really talk a lot about the obturator nerve, but the obturator nerve does help you in adduction of the thigh. So you wouldn't be able to do that, and it would make walking a lot harder, especially if you're moving in weird directions. So here is your femoral nerve right there, and then you can see the obturator nerve right here. Okay. Then we have the sacral plexus. Sacral plexus has a really important nerve called the sciatic nerve. That's the one nerve that I really, really want you to know from this one. It innervates the lower legs, so the knee, fibula, tibial. It will actually split into fibular and tibial nerves once it hits the knee. But if you have damage to the sciatic nerve, it's going to cause problems with walking. It can cause your knees to give out. So if you've ever been walking and then your knees give out, you have serious pain. That's often associated with sciatica, and the sciatic nerve is what's causing the problem. And here's that large sciatic nerve that once it hits that patellar region, it splits into a tibial and a fibular nerve, okay? Okay, there we go. So at this point, you should be able to tell me how many nerves extend from the brain, the nerves from the spinal cord, which cranial nerves are sensory, motor, and mixed. What is a nerve plexus, and what are the 4 major plexes? And you want to know the basic nerves that I talked about within the plexes. I'm going to stop here, and we're going to get into the last section in our last video. This was the longest chapter thus far.